Chapter 3 School Surprise. The next morning, dressed in her best jumper dress and leggings, Sophie hurried to get her backpack ready. She was eager to see friends she hadn't seen all winter. Plus, she thought she never knew exactly what would happen on the first day of school. Sophie zipped up her backpack. Bye, Dad! Sophie called as she hurried out the door. Wait for me, Winston cried. He ran out after her, his shoelaces still untied. Sophie had almost forgotten. Winston was starting school this year. Mrs. Wise's one-room school. Silver Lake Elementary was for all students ages 6 to 10. Sophie bent down to tie Winston's shoes. Mrs. Wise will want you to learn to tie these yourself, she said firmly. Then, in a gentler voice, she added, Come on, I'll show you the fun way to school. Instead of taking the path into Pine Needle Grove, past the bakery, the library, and the post office, Sophie led Winston to a little-known trail. It cut behind the library and ran through a tunnel of honeysuckle branches. The flower beds were just opening. Sophie could hear Winston behind her, taking deep breaths of the scent. The trail came out in the schoolyard. Sophie led Winston up to the front door and inside the pine bowl schoolhouse. Sophie! Hattie's voice rang out. Sophie turned and waved. Hattie was standing with her big sister, Lady, and their friend Ellie, the squirrel. Just then, Piper, the hummingbird, and Drew, the bluebird, flew in through the windows. Willie, the toad, was already sitting at the desk next to Malcolm, the mole, and Ben, the rabbit, and his little brother James entered the room behind Sophie and Winston. Winston knew James from preschool, so they went off to find two desks together. A mouse-sized one for Winston and a bigger one for James. Sophie headed over to say hello to Hattie, lady, and Ellie, but just then Mrs. Wise, a neatly dressed owl with glasses, stood up at the front of the room. Class, she said, please take your seats. Sophie hurried to get a maple bark desk by a window so she could see outside. She loved looking out the window, even if Mrs. Wise did catch her daydreaming sometimes. Welcome back to school, said Mrs. Wise. When the students were seated, I'm happy to see you all bright-eyed and ready to start another season. Now, I think we are all here. Mrs. Wise counted the students. Oh, we are missing our new student. His family has just moved to Pine Needle Grove. His name is Owen. I know you will all make him feel very welcome. At that moment, the door cracked open. Here he is now, said Mrs. White. Welcome, our Owen. All the students turned in their seats and gasped. Ellie and Malcolm both let out little squeaks. Ben's ears stood straight up. Sophie rubbed her eyes to make sure she was seeing this right. Oh, Owen was a snake? Chapter 4. First day jitter. Sophie glanced at Hetty, who was sitting behind her. Their eyes met. Sophie could tell that Hetty was just as nervous and surprised as she was. A real snake? In real life? Sophie thought. Sophie'd never seen one before. She bet none of her classmates had either. Come in, Owen, Mrs. Wise said to him warmly. Find a seat. Everyone watched as Owen respectfully took off his brimmed cap. Then he slithered up the center aisle. He passed up the empty desk next to Sophie's. She breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't want to be rude, but she didn't know if she wanted Owen to sit next to her either. Some of Sophie's ideas about snakes came from books, but must have had come from stories, spooky stories that old animals told about. Poisonous sea snakes or hissing ghost snakes? Surely they couldn't be true, could they? Owen found a desk in an empty row. Mrs. Wise began the math lesson. Other students took out their notebooks. Sophie got hers out too. Okay, a snake in class, she thought. No big deal, I guess. Then during quiet reading time, Sophie heard a psst. She looked up. Owen was leaning toward Drew's desk, which was in front of his. He was trying to get her attention, but Drew was lost in her book. Owen said psst a little louder. Drew didn't hear. Owen tried one more time. Psst, he said loudly. Startled, Drew fluttered up and out of her seat, turning to glare at Owen. Why are you looking at me? She demanded. Owen cleared his throat. Your bookmark is on the floor, he said. His voice was a little raspy, but gentle. Jo picked up her bookmark and sat down. Oh, she said quietly. Thanks, sir. At recess, Owen passed by the swing set and occasionally swatted the swing James was on with the end of his tail. The swing went flying way too high. Ooh! James cried. Help me! He shouted. James's brother Ben hurried over to help him down. As he did, Ben snapped at Owen. You need to be more careful. Owen looked very embarrassed. Sorry, he said quietly. It was an accident. He slithered over to the bench and coiled up all along. Sophie saw it all from across the yard. She was playing hopscotch with Heidi, Lady, and Willie. Hey, Sophie said to them, should we ask Owen to play? Willie shrugged, but said nothing. Lydia didn't seem so sure. Can snakes even hop? She asked. Heidi patted Sophie on the back. I think it's a good idea, she said, but I'm afraid to ask him. You ask him. Sophie took a deep breath. She started walking over to the bench. Then Owen looked up and saw her coming. Sophie lost her nerve and turned around. Silly Sophie, she scolded herself. Why are you so nervous? She tried to work up the courage to try again, but before she could, recess was over and it was time to go inside. After school, Sophie and Winston got ready to walk home together. So, what did you think of school? Sophie asked her brother as they walked out the door. Winston replied excitedly. Excitedly. It's so fun. I get to sit next to James. I get my very own desk. I like Mrs. Wise. Winston went on, but Sophie didn't hear the rest. Outside the schoolhouse, she saw Owen being greeted by another snake, probably his mom. Sophie imagined that Owen's mom was asking Owen about his day at school, and Owen did not look happy at all. Chapter 5 Snake Stories. At dinner that night, Winston told Mr. and Mrs. Mouse about the new student. Wow, a snake for a classmate? Mrs. Mouse exclaimed. Sophie nodded. Malcolm said that snakes can be sneaky, she began. And Ben said they are scary, Winston added. And quick-tempered, said Sophie. At least that's what Piper told us. Mrs. Mouse seemed surprised at their words as she passed the cheese biscuits. Actually, she said calmly, I was going to say a snake for a classmate. How delightful! Delightful? Sophie and Winston cried in surprise. Mr. Mouse nodded. Have you or any of your friends ever met a snake before? He asked. Sophie and Winston shook their heads. Mr. Mouse smiled. Well, I have, he said. Your mother and I used to know a very nice snake. Yes, asked Mrs. Mouse. And I thought you two knew better than to make up your mind before you even got to know someone. Get to know someone. All of a sudden, Sophie's biscuit didn't taste so good. She thought again about Owen sitting alone at recess and how sad he looked after school. Now she really wished she had asked Owen to play. Later that evening, Sophie went to find her dad. George Mouse was at his design desk working on a blueprint for a Shrew family's new house. Dad, Sophie said, would you tell me more about the snake you and Mom knew? Mr. Mouse put down his pencil. He turned to look at Sophie, smiled, and ruffled the fur on her head. Her name was Olivia. He began. Her family lived near here when your mom and I were young. We'd play together all the time, especially over in the buttercup path. Then one day, when I was maybe 10, she and her family moved away. I missed her a lot. Your mom did too. Sophie was quiet for a moment, then she said, sounds like she was. A very good friend of yours, Mr. Mouse nodded. She was a very good friend, he said. Sophie shuffled to her room. She got into her pajamas, climbed into her bed, pulled up her quilt made of milkweed fluff, and turned off the light. As she lay in the dark, Sophie made a decision. Owen was brave enough to walk into a school full of strangers. She thought, tomorrow I can be brave enough to ask him to play. Chapter 6. The Files when you're having fun. Time flies when you are having fun. At school the next day, the first thing Sophie did was look for Owen, but he wasn't there. The students took their seats. Mrs. Wise called attendance. They started their lesson. Still no Owen. Sophie looked back at the door many times during the day. At every rustle or creak or whoosh of the wind, she turned to see if it was Owen arriving. But the day flew by, and Owen never appeared. The same thing happened the next day. Everyone was in school except for Owen. Where was he? At least it was a library day, which took Sophie's mind off of it. She loved the library day. Each of you may check out one book this morning, Mrs. Wise told the students. The following day, the class went on a field trip to the beautiful field trip Gold Moss Pond. Sophie was just so excited that she didn't even notice Owen was still missing. Before Sophie knew it, the weekend had arrived. On Saturday afternoon, she and Hattie went to help out at the bakery. Mrs. Mouse had a brand new recipe to try out. She was known far and wide for her unusual day and tasty creations. Today's experiment was a cinnamon spiced buttercup cake. If it's not a 10 on the tasty soup scale, it's not ready to be sold, Mrs. Mouse told the girls with a wink. She emptied a basket onto the counter. Two delicate buttercups fell out. "Oh dear," said Mrs. Mouse. "We are definitely going to need more buttercups. We'll go pick some," Sophie suggested. Hetty nodded in agreement. The buttercup patch was very close to the bakery. Mrs. Mouse hesitated, then said, "Okay, but be back in half an hour." Sophie and Hetty skipped out of the bakery, baskets in hand. Chapter 7. One Stuck Mouse. Sophie and Hetty could just see over the tops of the tall flowers. They made their way out into the center of the buttercup path. Then they looked around in all directions. "Wow," said Sophie. "It's like a big yellow ocean of buttercups." I think neither she nor Hetty had ever been to the ocean. There were plenty of lakes, ponds, and streams. It's a Silver Lake forest, but no oceans. They started picking the smaller flowers. Sophie grabbed a stump, pulled and stored the flowers in a basket. Grab, pick, store. Grab, pick, store. Sophie got into a rhyme. Her basket was soon quarter full. Exactly how many buttercups do you think are in this patch? Sophie asked Hetty over her shoulder, but Hetty didn't answer. "Hetty!" Sophie turned. Hetty was off in a different part of the field. Sophie went on picking. Could it be a million buttercups? She wondered. A billion? Grab, pick, do. Amazing. The shade of yellow paint I couldn't make from these. Maybe Mom will let me take home some extras. Buttercup yellow. That'd be a great color to have. And not just for flower paintings. I could paint amazing sunrises and sunsets and cheese and wow! Sophie was falling. Her basket of buttercups went flying as she slid down a narrow hole in the ground. Just as suddenly, she landed with an off on the hard dirt floor. It took a moment for Sophie to clear her head, but she wasn't hurt, just very startled. She stood up and dusted off her dress. Then she looked round. There were no side tunnels, and the top of the hole was way out of reach. She tried to get a grip so she could climb up, but the dirt just crumbled in her hands. She needed help to get out. Heidi, she called. Heidi! She held her breath, listening for Heidi's reply. None came. Now Sophie wished she and Heidi had stuck together. She's too far away to hear me. How will I ever get out of here? Oh no, will I be stuck down here forever? Heidi! Sophie tried again at the top of her lungs. Sophie listened and heard a rustle from above. Heidi, I'm down here. As Sophie looked upward, a head popped into a view. It was small and round and wearing a brimmed cap, and it was peering into the hole. Then a voice called down, Sophie Mouse, is that you? It was a little raspy, but also gentle. Now Sophie was sure it definitely wasn't Heidi. It was Owen. Chapter 8. To the rescue. For a minute, Sophie was so surprised she couldn't speak. Finally, she squeaked out, Yes, sir, it's me. I can't get out. Owen was quiet a moment. Then he said, I have an idea. I'll lower my tail down. Grab on. I'll pull you out. Oh, Sophie exclaimed. Okay. Owen's head disappeared as he turned around. He lowered his tail down, until it was within Sophie's reach. For a split second, Sophie hesitated. She was afraid to be down in the hole alone, but she was afraid to grab onto Owen too. Then Sophie remembered how brave Owen had been on the first day of school, and here he is being brave again. Though, Sophie, it's time for me to be brave too. Sophie grabbed on. She felt her feet lift up off the ground, inch by inch. Sophie rose higher and higher. She held on tight, trying not to slip, until she could reach out and grab onto the lip of the hole. Then she scrambled up and out, safe at last. You saved me, Sophie exclaimed as she got to her feet. Thank you. No problem, Owen said breathlessly. It's no big deal. gazing out over the buttercup patch. Sophie spotted Haiti off in the distance. Sophie waved, and Haiti came running over. I was just so worried, Haiti cried. Huffing and puffing, I turned round and you were gone. So she stopped catching sight of Owen. Oh, hi. What are you doing here? Before Owen could answer, Sophie burst out. Owen just saved me. I fell into this hole and he pulled me out. Haiti looked into the hole. Oh my goodness, she said. She gave Sophie a hug. I'm so glad you are okay. Then she beamed at Owen. Way to go, Owen, she cried. Quick thinking. Owen looked down at the ground. I don't know. Well, she needed help, so I helped, he said. Just then, a voice from behind Sophie and Haiti made them jump. Oh, here you are. Sophie and Haiti turned to see ground snake toiling over them. Sophie's heart skipped a beat, and Haiti reached for Sophie's hand. But then Owen said, Oh, hi, Mom. This is Sophie Mouse and Haiti Frog. Looking again, Sophie recognized Owen's mother as the same grown-up who was waiting for him at school on the first day. Hello, Sophie. Hello, Haiti, Mrs. Snake said kindly. Very nice to meet you. I'm Olivia. Olivia? Thought Sophie. Olivia Snake? Wait a minute. It can't be. Oh, can it? Is she the Olivia Snake? Mom and Dad is a long lost friend? Chapter 9. Old friends and new friends. Excuse me, Olivia. I mean, Mrs. Snake, said Sophie. Did you grow up around here? Olivia's eyes went wide in surprise. How did you guess? She said with a laugh. I used to play all the time in this very buttercup patch with Jules and Billy Mouse. Sophie asked excitedly. A speechless Olivia Snake nodded, so Sophie added, They are my mom and dad. My mom is at her bakery right over there. She pointed toward the town. We were picking buttercups for a recipe she's trying out. Suddenly, Sophie had a great idea. They could all go back to the bakery together to surprise Mrs. Mouse. Mrs. Snake loved the idea. Haiti, Owen, and Mrs. Snake helped Sophie pick fresh buttercups to replace the Owen ones that had scattered when she fell. Then they walked together to the bakery. Sophie and Haiti walked in. The first Mrs. Mouse was happy to see them because she had started to worry. Then Olivia and Owen came in, and Mrs. Mouse nearly dropped her cookie sheet. Oh, Oh, I don't know. That face anywhere? Mrs. Mouse said. Olivia Snake. Lily Mouse. Lily Mouse, cried Olivia. Mrs. Mouse gave Mrs. Snake a big hug while Sophie jumped and clapped for joy. Happy surprises were the best. Well, this called for a celebration, Mrs. Mouse declared. She fixed up a tray of pastries and made a pot of tea. Then the two old friends sat down at a coffee table to chat and catch up. Meanwhile, Sophie, Hattie, and Owen set up their own tea party behind the counter. They took turns sneaking pastries from the grown-ups' tray. After a few cookies, Sophie asked the question she'd been wondering all week. Owen, how come you never came back to school? Owen hesitated. Well, my mom used to be a school teacher, he said. She's teaching me at home. For now, at least. Owen looked down. Anyway, I didn't think anyone liked me. Oh no, Haiti burst out. That's not true. Not exactly. Sophie gulped, feeling embarrassed. I think it was just while we were all a little nervous. None of us had ever met a snake before. She took a deep breath. We are really sorry, Owen. Soon, it was time for the snakes to leave. Sophie thanked Owen again for saving her. Will we see you at school on Monday? She asked. Owen moved slowly toward the door. Then he looked back at Sophie. Maybe, he said with a smile. Chapter 10. Better late than never. Sophie tapped her pencil on her desk. She stared at the clock on the schoolhouse wall. It was Monday morning. Mrs. Wise was about to start the first lesson. Owen wasn't there. Sophie looked over at Hattie, two desks away. They had saved the desk between them for Owen. I thought for sure he'd come, Sophie whispered to Hattie. She slumped in her chair. I guess I was wrong. Just then the door swung open. A ray of sunlight fell across the classroom. Owen hurried in. Sorry, I'm late, Mrs. Wise, he said out of breath. Sophie heard some of the students whisper in surprise, but this time it was Sophie who squeaked from happiness. She waved wildly to Owen. Haiti motioned for him to take the desk between them. He came over and sat down. We are so glad you are here, Sophie whispered to him. She could feel everyone looking at them, including Mrs. Wise. Sophie, eyes met her teachers. Mrs. Wise winked and smiled warmly. At recess, Sophie and Heidi led Owen outside. What should we play? Heidi asked. Sophie shrugged. What do you like to do, Owen? Hopscotch. Owen shook his head. I'm not good at jumping, he said, but I'm good at jumping rope. Huh? Said Heidi. Owen smiled. He rested his head on the end of the bench. He propped up his tail on the base of the seesaw. Then he twirled his body around and round. A jump rope! Sophie and Heidi cried, laughing. Sophie hopped in and started singing. Score, score the golden roll. Spell your name and go to the school. To school. Sophie. She jumped out. Heidi took her turn. Heidi, she jumped out. Lydia hopped over and asked if she could play. Then Ellie and Malcolm joined in. Ben walked up to Owen as he was twirling. Doesn't that hurt, Owen? Ben asked. Nope, not at all, said Owen. It's fun. I'll get tired after a while, but not yet. Jump in if you want. Ben smiled and jumped in. And before long, the whole class was playing. That evening, Sophie painted a picture using her newest color, buttercup yellow. It was a landscape of the buttercup patch under a bright orange and pink sunset. In the color, she painted a mouse, a frog, and snake playing together. Sophie stepped back and still studied her work. She thought it was one of her best yet. Sophie smiled. She was happy because of her painting, because Owen had come back to school and everyone liked him, and most of all because she had made a new friend. The end.